Happy Throwback Thursday, YouTube friends and family. So I'm actually filming this and I'm going to get it uploaded for yet today. I've had some challenges this week that I shared on an earlier video, but I want to say I'm glad you're here. So I'm going to be sharing a little bit of a vintage collection that I have. Obviously, I have too much vintage collection. I feel really bad for my kid if he ever has to clean all this out because it's a lot. So I might downsize. But anyway, what am I going to share with you today? Well, you're going to have to stay tuned to find out. So first of all, let me say welcome. We have a lot of new subscribers again. I'm so happy that you're all here. And I am really trying to be a bit more faithful on my content. And I also want to say, for any of you that happen to be on my Wednesday live, I want to apologize to you about my confusion. When I do a live on my phone, your phone is, I can never remember, portrait, up and down. So the print is teeny tiny. And I have to kind of go like this. I'm not old or anything, but I have to squint and look close to read it. And I never want to be offensive to anyone, even if they're a new subscriber, if they don't understand why I'm talking about what I'm talking about. I'm always happy to explain. But guys, this conversation, which I still, 24 hours later, cannot get to on YouTube, I don't know, it went to Never Never Land, got really bad, to the point where YouTube, all I could see was holding comment for review, holding comment for review. Well, I can't get to it to review, but I'm sure if it needs reviewed, y'all don't want to hear it either. So I had like 238 views, like boom, not from subscribers, from a group of people, most of which habla Espanol, and my Spanish is super weak, so I was like, searching. It's been a lot of years since I've had to speak Spanish. So at any rate, if anyone saw the comments, any subscribers happened to be on, I really want to sincerely apologize to you. I try to never have anything off color or offensive on my channel. And I'm not even going to go into what it was all about because it was bad. So, okay, that's cleared up. Let's get a sippy sip. Y'all, we got 0.7 inches. I love my new weather station, by the way. 0.7 inches of rain last night. I was so exhausted. As you all have heard me say, I'm a vivid dreamer, and I've been having some troublesome dreams where my dad was well, my mom was not. He wanted to find a facility that was suitable for her, and so we were going to all these crazy places that weren't right, and, feeling the despair of it all. Yeah, I dreamed that 3 nights in a row. So I finally got some sleep last night. I'm feeling much better. My son called me like about, 5 o'clock, and I was like, I'm already asleep. But I got more than 8 hours of sleep, so I definitely do feel better, and I didn't have any crazy dreams, or if I did, I don't remember them. So another update for you all. I may do a little bit more sitting in my videos for a little bit. As you all know, I reached above my head and hurt my back and have some new back issues I won't go into. So I can sit pretty comfortably and I can stand. Still, if I lean over, or I can lay, but sometimes walking around is painful. So it's been a bit of a challenge for me. My garden has gone absolutely nuts, but we've been under a heat advisory with feels like temperatures over 100. It's been super dry, so we'll get to it. But my corn's tasseling, guys, and today is July 4th. So happy Independence Day to all the U.S. folks, and happy Canada Day belated to all my Canadian subscribers. All right, one more sip, guys. Can you tell I'm sweating? I don't know what is up with me. I have been kind of running around this morning. I wanted to get the chicken chores taken care of. I didn't have to water today before the rain comes again, because we're supposed to get rain today. So what are we going to talk about? I'm sorry, I guess everything else but what we're here to talk about. I want to share a little bit of my vintage tablecloth collection with you. Share a little bit about how to date a vintage linen, and also why I like to collect them, and why everything I'm going to show you isn't everything I have. My poor kid. All right, so let's start back in the 1930s. So this was the Depression era, and I do have some talking notes, y'all. But it was like yard goods fabric, so people were making their own tablecloths. They were not real intricate. It would be like a repeating woven pattern. Sometimes they would make them out of feed sacks, which is really neat. For many years, I had my mother's sunsuit from when she was like a baby, you know, it was only like this big. Of course, my mom was little. It finally rotted. Hang on, guys. Y'all, my apologies for the quick cut. I'm still a little nervous about the fox, although I have not seen him in nearly, probably about 4 weeks. But the girls were sending an alarm. It's very foggy today from all the rain we had. And I have learned just from the experience of having him twice in my yard, they like the foggy days. You know, they can go stealth mode. I see nothing. I checked both cameras. It picked up nothing but me running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Girls probably don't appreciate that saying. All right, let's go back to the 1930s. So there were small squares, so like a breakfast cloth of about 31 inches, so less than 3 feet. And I actually have an example of what one would look like. I can't guarantee it's from the 30s, but I kind of think it might be. They were bright, clear, multicolored prints, but only up to 3 colors. So, you know, textiles changed through the years for sure. So the colors were opposite of the color wheel: orange and blue, orange and green, purple, yellow. There were red and white floral designs with green leaves. And the first use of color fast, true color fast green happened around 1935. So I'm going to show you what I think might be a 1930s breakfast cloth. There were a lot of florals with ribbons, lily of the valley, cottage roses, linen tablecloths with wide plaid edges were also popular. And there was an increase in imports from Japan, Czechoslovakia, Ireland, and a lot of things were VAT dyed at that time. So thinking about what I just said, y'all gonna have to excuse Granny get up here. Where do I find my tablecloths? A lot of them on eBay, some at vintage stores. A couple from family. So this would be a very good example, and I'll try to come up here, of a 1930s. Now this has been hand embroidered, and it does look like it's machine edged. So that's why I'm not sure if it's 1930s, but it is strawberry motif, and it is that traditional green. It might be a little bit bigger than 31 inches, maybe not this way. It's more of a rectangle. And how I can't tell you where I bought it from. I think I got this from like a thrift store or a vintage store. I use it on top of a second tablecloth. And I try not to get food on it, y'all. A lot of the vintage linens can be pretty fragile, pretty thin. You know, they need to be stored well, away from light, away from heat, etc. So I have a lot of mine for the holidays packed away, and that's why you won't see my full holiday collection. Alrighty, so then let's talk about World War II, which is the 1940s. So sometimes you will find a tag in your linens. Now I can say rarely do I find a tag unless it was like a Sunday best tablecloth that wasn't used much, or maybe was found at an estate sale where there were a lot of unused items they were saving for good. And that would have been my grandparents, you know, bless their hearts. I say use the good stuff, enjoy it. But at any rate, you would see the tag say, made in America, color fast, and Sanfordized. Those were 3 things. You would also sometimes see the OPA, or Office of Price Administration sticker, from 1942 to 1947. Now, I don't have any true, I don't think, 40s tablecloths. I've got a lot of 50s, and 50s is kind of my jam. So you would see florals, especially roses, dogwood, cherry blossoms, tulips, tropical berries. There was also the term, like on the tag, would say screen printed. I don't think I have any that still have tags. I might have one. Yeah, tags kind of go by the wayside. There was 4+ color combinations as opposed to 30s when there was only 3 colors. And there were garden and vegetable designs, farm themes, cute children, people themes, Western themes, not thieves, and then state-specific tablecloths. Now, y'all, I don't know if you have ever looked on eBay or even in a vintage or a thrift, well, not in a thrift, a vintage or an antique store is what I mean to say. Guys, they're outrageous. A lot of them for a very small tablecloth is upward of $80. I'm not going to pay that. It's just too pricey. Some popular ones that I have seen on eBay, Hawaii is a big one and Florida is a big one. You'll see probably more Florida than anything else. And they came with coordinating napkins because, of course, you need the set, right? And sometimes there would be coordinating dinnerware or placemats or something. So that whole theme thing started in the 1940s. All right, guys, let's talk about the 1950s. So a lot of people have asked me, why are you so stuck in the 1950s? I wasn't born until 1961. However, what I have learned through my research and just through reminiscing and talking to some of my elders, there was a big carryover from the 50s to the 60s as far as style, because the 50s was prosperity, the 60s kind of changed things. And so there was a little bit more reuse it type thing going on. So I remember from my grandparents and even my parents, a lot of things that are 1950s style. So why do I like to collect tablecloths in general? I just think they're neat. It brings back memories of a much simpler time. I think that's why I like the whole vintage aspect. I also like to purchase things and then kind of wonder, I wonder how this was used. I wonder where they used it. I wonder what meals they had around that table. Kind of make up your own story type thing. So in the 50s, they continue with the 40s design, but there was much richer color and patterns. So there were a lot of kitchen themes, dishes, bottles, spices, food themes, whimsical fun designs. And I think I've showed y'all this before. I am sitting at my table and I am using one of my definite 1950s whimsical, it has I can never think what these are called, kebabs, like spoons, carrots, fruit, different things. It's red in the center with kebabs all the way around the center. This I've actually seen on eBay after I purchased this at a vintage store. It's pretty thin material, but it has the bright colors, and I'm 99.99% sure that it's 50s. It could be late 50s. So there was more use of bold colors, of using synthetic dyes. So again, that textile industry was expanding, it was growing. They also used metallic threads, especially gold and silver. Now that's not something I've seen a lot of, and I don't have any examples of that to show you, but I've got plenty of examples to show you here shortly. So there was a lot of use of synthetic fabrics. So it wasn't just cotton, like this green one is definitely 100% cotton. This is definitely a poly blend. I can just tell by the feel of it. So they used rayon, polyester. A lot of the designs were outlined in black to make them show up more. So there were kitschy, quirky, and fun prints. Now, who doesn't want a tablecloth that's kitschy, quirky, and fun? So I think that's why I'm drawn primarily to the 1950s. There was some space age. Now, I have never been able to find any like spaceships or boomerangs. Those things are probably held more in private collections, but they're super cool. In 1958, they started sewing the tags in instead of it just being a laid-on tag, a paper tag. And they also, in 1958, started labeling the percentage of fiber, so is it, 10% cotton, 90 poly. So you can often date, and I really wish I could find one with a tag on it, but I don't think I have any. You can really date whether it's pre-1950s or post-1950s by the tag that would be sewn in. So there were also circles, squares, other geometric shapes. So the 1950s was fun, wasn't it? One of the color combos, that might be like my whole, the whole back of my house, is they used a lot of bright blue and green together. And nothing evokes childhood memories for me more so than those two color combinations. So let me share a few more of my tablecloths with you. So the first one I have here is the one that I use with this green overlay. It's in extremely good shape. It feels like a very heavy cotton. And let me show y'all. This is what happens to the tags. Okay, can you see it's like all frayed? So this one says, if I can even read it, will endure product, and it says genuine something else. I think it's just genuine. So this did have a tag. I would say it was 50s. It is a little square tablecloth. My table happens to be round, but I still use them. It doesn't matter to me. All right, so this one I have a little bit of a, I'm not sure on. A lot of the 50s and even 60s tablecloths had this lovely fringe that the cat likes to play with. So this is a newer to me vintage Christmas tablecloth. So it's primarily green and shades of green and shades of red with the fringe around it. I don't think there's any. But one of the things I've noticed about this is the colors. I know it's upside down, y'all. They're not real vibrant. They're kind of faded. So I don't know whether it was maybe bleached or an all fabric bleached and it's not so color fast. But it's quite charming and it will make a fun tablecloth for Christmas time. I do have the tablecloth which is packed away from my childhood. And I think I've shown that in previous holiday videos. But this is a fun one. Now the next two, these are like, I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna say they could be 50s, they could be 60s. Is this like wowza wowza woo? This is such a beautiful, beautiful tablecloth and it's barely been used. I don't think there's any tag on this. Usually it's just a piece. It feels like a rayon cotton blend. It's almost woven, if you can see that. But like, why wouldn't this brighten up my kitchen? I might have to switch that out today. So one of the ways I like to store them is on these pants hangers, I guess you would call them. It just prevents them from getting wrinkles, but almost all of them have to be ironed. Now this one, y'all, this one's really fun. This is also a newer purchase. I did buy this off eBay. I'm gonna peek because I haven't used it yet, just to see if I see any tag. I don't. So, is that almost obnoxious? But I just think it brightens up the day. So it's more of a teal than a blue, and it's a chartreuse green, which makes me think this may be more 60s. The other thing that's very different, guys, is this is terry cloth. Can you see the texture to it? And it has the butterflies, the fruit, and the fringe for Frankie. Y'all pray for me. No, he's a good boy. I did realize also, I've been saying Frankie's 13, he's 12, I'm trying to make him an old man. Thank goodness for Facebook memories popping up, right? So we'll set that aside. Now this one I've used a ton. It's just a good, any time of the year it's not a holiday, tablecloth. It is like a slubbed cotton, so it has a little bit of texture to it. It has the Frankie fringe on it. and it kind of matches my curtains. It's blue and green. This was very inexpensive, and with it being kind of slubbed, there are some picks and such in it, but y'all, you know, you're eating on it. You can just enjoy the looks of it. I don't mind a few little flaws. I'm not looking for total perfection. All right, so let's change up gears a little bit. So we had the 60s, then we had the advent of the 70s, which was a lot of earth tones. I suspect this one is the 1970s. I have not used this a lot, y'all. It's very pretty. It's just not my colors, but it's a good fall tablecloth. So instead of the long fringe, it has a looped fringe, like a pom-pom. Excuse me, y'all. It is a round. I'll just hold it up here so y'all can see. No tag. I'm wondering if ladies cut the tags out because they frayed once they washed it. I have a stunning, but unfortunately it's packed away. 1970s, 60s, 70s. 60s was a lot of like giant florals and mod, you know, peace and hippie and love. I have one with giant orange and brown flowers that I generally will use through the fall season. But this would be a good going from summer into fall. And I actually made placemats that kind of match it, that have a bee theme. But then again, I haven't used them very much. Now the final one, I'm a little puzzled on this one. I got this as a September tablecloth because it's blue and green and it has apples and it's kind of back to schoolish. And I always love back to school stuff. I'm gonna say this might be 80s, y'all. This is probably the newest one that I have. It feels definitely like it's 100% cotton. It too has no tag. It is round. Yeah, but it just does not have that, to me, it does not have that vintage feel. I think I got this at the Goodwill, probably, or the thrift store for $1. So I just thought it would be fun, you know, for back to school. And I like to change my tablecloth very frequently. And, you know, let's talk a little bit about care and handling of vintage linens. So if you have a true, very vintage, I'd say pre-1940s or maybe even pre-50s tablecloth, you may have some fatigue in the fabric. In other words, if you pull it or stretch it or wring it, you may develop some holes, like my mother's sunsuit that was made out of a feed sack. I don't think I ever finished that story, but it finally rotted. I mean, it just literally fell apart. It was so old. But at any rate, I would say always test a small amount, you know, see if it's color fast or not. In other words, dip part of the tablecloth in water in the sink, squeeze, you know, gently squeeze it, see if any color comes out. If it does, you can use the color catchers, which they look like a dryer sheet, but they will soak up any dye that leaches out of the tablecloth. You know, chances are if you're buying this secondhand and it's been used before, that's already been leached out, but some of the red will sometimes leach out, and you know, it can really ruin anything else you wash it with. When in doubt, use a very mild, like a Woolite. Hand wash is a good idea, or gentle cycle is what I use on my washing machine. I haven't had any of them fall apart yet. One thing I will say is I do not put any of them in the dryer. So I hang them to dry, either on hangers, you know, across like the pinchy hangers. I try not to hang them outside, and here's why. If the sun shines on them, it's gonna fade your colors, especially anything pre-1950s or even pre-60s. They are not as color fast as today's fabrics. If you do decide you want to put them in the dryer, I would say gentle cycle, low, whatever your dryer has that isn't a high heat. I do iron mine. You can't tell by this one because I didn't iron this one. Most of them are high cotton, test on a small area. I've never burned one or melted one from trying to iron it. So they're fairly easy to take care of. I think the most important thing is to just store them out of light, and also, you know, temperature not so variable, because that can also deteriorate the fabric. And of course, away from a place, you know, not in your attic where moths, other things can get to it. So I hope you've enjoyed today's little walk down memory lane on my tablecloths. I was really puzzled, like, where are the rest of my tablecloths? And then I remembered I decided to pack them with the holiday decorations because I was running out of room where I hang these in my laundry room. So it's probably time to cut off your collection when you have no more room, right? So I hope to see you all this weekend. That's my plan at this point. Not sure what we're going to be doing. I've got some garden harvesting that needs to be done. Yesterday I harvested the biggest cabbage I've ever grown, and Mr. Steve's adult children are in from out of town, so I took over some garden goodies for them, and he got the prize cabbage so they could make coleslaw or whatsoever for the family, because I figured as big as it was, he would use it all up, and the other two that are still growing are a little bit smaller, and I don't want to waste. You know, it's a lot of work to grow things, but I really enjoy gifting food to people, and it was much appreciated. So I will see you all a little bit later this week. If you would do me a big favor, go ahead and smash that like button. Drop me a comment below. What's your favorite tablecloth? I think, honestly, this one is probably my most favorite, followed by, I love the new terry cloth one I got. I just think it is so 1960s to me because it's the brighter colors. All right, guys, I will see you very soon. But until then, be healthy, be well, be blessed, and take care.